Hello, Mr. Dom, and everyone who is watching this presentation. Today, our group is going to indicate how coronavirus impact on British economy. Currently, the coronavirus pandemic is a controversial problem in the global economies. This pandemic has caused many losses in different sectors of the economies of many countries. In detail, it is impossible not to mention the UK, one of the largest outbreaks of the world in the first and second quarters of 2020. So, how the UK economy has been affected. We have consulted and synthesized information related to seven basic indicators, including GDP, national labor productivity, unemployment rate, consumer price index, balance of trade, inflation, and base interest rates. First and foremost, the negative effects on the GDPs of the UK is undeniable. You know, GDP is a monetary measure of the market values of all the final goods and services produced in a specific time periods. And let's go to the fear one, which is gross domestic product growth in UK from 2007 in January and the August 2020. As reported by the ONS, Britain's GDP growth is always positive, except for the global economic crisis in 2008 and 2009, and the record low in the August 2020, which is more lower than minus 20% due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic for 2020. Britain's economy suffered 10 times more losses than previous year. The coronavirus pandemic is expected to lead to a shortage of Britain, especially in the whole world in 2020 as well. And many studies have shown that this pandemic actually caused the decrease in the consumption of goods and services. Also, its negative influence on the whole nations. And the ONS estimate the British GDP increased roughly 60% from July to September 2020, but this rate has revised for the first growth of the 15.5%. And according to ONS, this expansion was the greatest quarterly in the British economies since their initial minutes has begun in 15, 19, 1955. Next, we have the real GDP increased by the revise of 60% in the quarter 3 2020, which is reflecting the easing of lockdown measures and some recovery from the step contractions in April. And it shows us a cumulative decrease of GDPs of 21.2% in the first half of 2020, compared with the previous estimate that the UK economy fell about 3% from January to March. Then this rate continued to decline to 18.8% in the second quarter before reaching the values of God Laos at 8.6% since the outbreak of COVID-19 in late 2019. It was illustrated that in July 2020, this period witnessed an increase in the rate of British GDP by 6.5%, followed by a slight fall of 2.1% in next 2 months and a future drop to the 1.1% in September in consequence. And the next figure will show us about the UK GDPs in first quarters and the cumulative drop in GDPs in other G7 countries. GDPs is also influenced by the variable G, which is government expenditures. as shown in the charts of to first quarter to second quarter in 2020, as we have shown before. And the first quarter has shown us the development of seven countries first quarter 2020 estimated. However, despite the remarkable growth in the third quarter, almost all of these countries' GDP level was much lower than they were before the COVID-19 pandemic. In the first quarter of 2020, Britain is the second country with a large decline in GDP accumulations and only after Spain with a large decline. Compared to the end of 2019, the UK economy was 8.6% lower in the first quarters of 2020, and this number has been considered to be twice as large as the cumulative decrease in GDPs of other G7 countries. And next, we should go to the national labor productivities, which is the real output per labor hour, and growth in labor productivity is measured as a change in the ratio over time. Because of the coronavirus outbreak, the differentiations we intend to see will be generated by those employments, including those ensured by the coronavirus job retention scheme, which is standing by CHRS, being removed from the profitable roles in which they are working. And you can see that we have listed two reasons for the productivity slowdown. The first is the supply side conditions, and we can witness the quicker times in Europe in terms of mismatch between expertise and areas of employment. Also, it is a global trend. The second reason is the demand side causes. The UK government has faced with a distinct longer terms of the productivity dilemma, and the UK productions per hour has performed worse than its G7 peers for many decades. Thirdly, we talk about the impact on the employment rate, which is the percentage of unemployed workers in the total labor force. And the critics downturns of the economy's activities is the result of the outbreak of COVID-19 in the UK, caused by an unemployment claim, significant decrease in jobs and self-employment, a surge in the short-time work, and an extraordinary decrease in hours working and a large drop in vacancy has been observed in this job market. And we have the figure two, which is illustrate the UK claimant count. Until the beginnings of July, the unemployment rate measures using quarterly labor force surveys data remain relatively stable. And according to the latest ONS statistics, the average unemployment rate from June to August was 4.5%. Therefore, an upward trend is beginning to visible, while the government employees retentions and income security program for the self-employed manage to hold unemployment rates steadily until midsummer. Next, we have the unemployment rate in July 2020. You can see that we have fluctuated in the unemployment rate between the first quarter in 2020 to the third in the same year. It's due to uh, it's due to the chocolate butchers in cream, but Government minister normally hard quite to find a silver lining to the darkness of clown admit as much, and unemployment is notching a 3 million vacancy have plummeted and pay packet per singings. Currently, the Britain's economist analysts are considered as lookouts on the Titanic. So we have suggest three methods to make things better. First, you can consider how people struggle with the medical and other risks to believe, how reactions to those problems are influenced by diverse viewpoints and backgrounds. Next, you can offer carers guarantees for young people and broadcasting these expensive jobs through reduced employers' national insurance premiums, and the last, loosening physical distancing laws or providing them with continual personalized assistance. That's just the three methods our group want to recommend to the government or administrators. And we next to the fourth.
So let's move on to the next indicator, the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. The Consumer Price Index is a measure that examines the weighted average of prices of a basket of consumer goods and services, such as transportation, food, and medical care. It is calculated by taking prices changes for each item in the predetermined basket of goods and averaging them. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19 around the globe, the trend in British storage and use habit leading to a trend in the CPI of this country. Let's have a look at the feature 1, the contribution to trend in the CPI 12-month inflation rate UK between the November 2020 and December 2020. The closure of preschool to university school has resulted in a large number of children and adolescents staying at home, leading to a growing demand for recreational and cultural products, especially for computer games and game consoles. The price of these items increased by 0.2% on average. Besides that, the prices of items such as clothing, shoes, medicine, and medical goods also increased insignificantly due to high consumption and storage demand during the lockdown period in the UK. In contrast, the average prices of alcoholic beverages and cigarettes our restaurants and hotels have decreased significantly due to a sharp decline in tourism and the reduction of unnecessary needs to accumulate property of the people during the pandemic. Following from the CPI, COVID-19 pandemic has changed the balance of trade of the UK. The balance of trade is the differences between the monetary value of a nation's exports and imports over a certain time period. The balance of trade measures a flow of export and imports over a given period of time. COVID-19 had a significant influence on the UK trade balance. To see the effect, we will be comparing 2019 before COVID-19 and 2020 COVID-19 appeared. We have three graphs to show the differences. Between January and October 2019, the UK trade balance was negative due to imports being more significant than exports. From November 2019 to January 2020, the United Kingdom becomes a surplus country with a positive trade balance. First, since February 2020, the UK trade balance was negative. both imports and exports decreased. By May, April, June 2020, the balance of trade were positive, but both imports and exports were very low. From July until now, the UK trade balance has remained negative, with only August having a positive trade balance. As the UK continues to be under the influence of COVID-19, with the more dangerous new strain, trade with some countries has to be closed. Only on very few products can be exported, such as fuels, crew material, food. So next, we will move to the inflation rate. In economics, inflation is a general rise in the price level in an economy over a period of time. The common measure of inflation is the inflation rate. We can see in the figure. The inflation leaped to 1% in July because of the recuperation in fuel costs from the drop in March. Although this increase in inflation reflects the growth in economic activity, the long-term global trend could be deflationary. According to the manager of the Jupiter Strategic Bond Fund, the impact of COVID-19 on the global economy could make deflation the dominant force in the next 12 months. Last but not least, we would like to present the impact on the base interest rate. An interest rate is the amount of interest per period as the proportion of the amount lent, deposited, or borrowed. After the COVID-19 appeared in Britain, the Bank of England has given the lenders 6 months to prepare for the negative interest rates. It set interest rate at 0.1% from April 2020. The coronavirus has forced the bank to make quicker and more dramatic changes than any events before. As we can see from the chart, it cut the rate from 0.75% to 0.25%, a record low at the time. Just in few days later, the rate has dropped into 0.1% and lasted today, trending the base rate with the intention that will help maintain growth and employment. However, coronavirus continues to prevent both of them. Thousands of jobs have been lost already that causes more unexpected unemployment. In conclusion, there were a bad economic growth of the UK in the last decade, and we hope that we can see a positive modifier in 2021. That's all our presentation, and thank you for listening.